space is such a pain in the ass to get on.
But that's an easy problem. It's not that.
Well, you're a professional.
Distance. Keep it till I get this. I'm putting in a new well here. I'm gonna be doing the same thing. Clock, I'd like to call the scheduled council meeting of September 25th, September 25th, 2023 to order. If you'd all please stand and face the flag and repeat after me. I pledge. One nation, indivisible, liberty and justice. Honor the Texas flag. The pledge to the one, under God, one, and indivisible. Next item tonight is public input. Anyone may speak in public input for a period of 3 minutes. If anyone would like to speak additional time, it will require a consensus of council. You may speak on an agenda or non-agenda item. Ted Stranzik. Okay, so you want to hold those for the agenda item? Anyone else to speak on public input? Hearing none, staff and mayor council report. I don't really have anything to report on tonight. Council, any reports? You'll do a report later.
Yeah, we'll do it once a month. We're moving to kind of a new format. So we'll do that at the beginning of the month.
Okay.
And give you a full
You'll
staff
have a
report.
police input, that we have a police report later. Yep.
Yeah, we'll give a quick update on that.
Got it. All right, next item is public hearing. This is a public hearing. The town council will conduct a public hearing on their proposed tax rate for fiscal year 2023, 2024. Anybody here tonight that would like to speak on the public hearing on their proposed tax rate? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium, state your name and address, please.
Yeah, hi, Dave Ryer from 909 Meadow Drive in Copper Canyon here. I think about 3 years ago, the tax rate was dropped a little bit for the city.
2 cents.
Okay. We've had a surge in property value over the last 2 or 3 years. And then we've had also the addition of Vickery and some other subdivisions that created a huge revenue windfall for us. Why has the tax rate not been dropped again? We're higher than Bartonville and we're higher than Double Oak. And I know that they're presenting a police department now that the budget's a little over 600,000, but Double Oak's budget's over 800. I mean, I'm sorry, Bartonville's is over 800,000 and Double Oak is almost 1.2 million. And they have lower tax rates than we do.
Well, our tax rate will not change. It's not going up. It's staying the same this year.
Yeah, but my question is, why hasn't it been proposed to maybe reduce it a little bit to be comparable to maybe Double Oak and Bartonville?
Well, we did reduce the tax rate 2 years ago by 2 cents. We also keep in mind that we're building a fund basically for road maintenance repair that we never used to have. What you may not be familiar with is Copper Canyon Road, Orchid Hill Road, and Chin Chapel Road was all done by the county, solid concrete roads. However, when the county did those roads, they don't repair them later. They belong to us at that point. So we've had a minimal road fund for years where we were just crack sealing, asphalt overlays, et cetera, because we didn't have a maintenance of a concrete road. This is one reason. So when you start repairing and replacing concrete roads, that budget obviously increases. So we're currently building a fund that will protect us in the future there. We're in the process of the creation of a police department. The $600,000 budget you refer to is a lot of startup costs.
No, I saw that in
a lot of the
yeah.
startup costs. So you can't really use that as the ongoing budget. But we do have a pro forma that goes out 10 years that will be presented showing the ongoing tax rate and also what the budget will be for the police department. And it's nothing like Bartonville's a 24/7 department, so is Double Oaks a 24/7 department. Our intention is not to be a 24/7 department initially. It's going to be quite a few years before that happens. So this is an initial step into the police department. I will tell you, I mean, it's my intention to, and I've told members of this council is to propose a tax reduction. May not be this year, but it will be the following year if I'm still the mayor. My intention is to propose an additional 2-cent tax reduction. You are right. We had a windfall. We had a lot of permits come in. We had a lot of, now those permits turn into property value taxes, revenue, constant revenue. So that is going to we're trying to build the road fund. We're starting the PD. We did lower taxes 2 cents. And we do anticipate that we'll be able to, or I do anticipate that we'll be able to propose an additional tax reduction in the next 2 years.
Okay, how does that factor in also with, there's 2 police officers being hired initially.
Right.
So and I noticed in the budget that they took out a large portion for Denton County, for the sheriff's department, I believe, correct?
Yeah, we contract with
Which is about a $220,000
That's
savings.
right.
Okay, so that offsets some of that 600 and something thousand. I understand there's capital investment for the vehicles and equipment and all that stuff, and I understand that. But however, you have 2 officers, 12-hour shifts, 7 days a week. Somebody gets sick, somebody has to pull somebody over, go to the county, book a drunk driver.
And two officers is not the intention. Our intention is to go to 3 officers so that we have more coverage and we're able to cover that. We factored all this and we've talked about that. The budget right now shows for 2, but the following budget will be for 3. So we'll be adding a 3rd officer before in that same process.
Will there be one on 24 hours?
I would say 16.5. I would say, well, at best, I think somewhere maybe 16.6, so 16 hours a day, 6 days a week will be and we haven't done the schedule yet. So that's going to require the chief to come in when we find that perfect chief and we're able to do this. So I don't think we'll be somebody here 24/7. No.
So
No,
Sheriff's Department?
We have interlocal agreements and we will get the exact same coverage that we get now when Maurice is not out. Right now we budget for 2 officers. We only have 1. We've actually budgeted for as many as 2.5 to 3 officers and still only have gotten 1 from Denton County because of a lack of officers. Okay. So we've never had what we paid for. But no, as soon as we get our certifications that have applied for, and as soon as we have those, we're going to get interlocals with Highland Village. We'll have interlocals with Double Oak. We'll have interlocals, obviously, with the sheriff's department and any neighboring town. Those are the neighboring towns. We will have an interlocal agreement with. So when you call 911, somebody's coming.
I mean, that was my concern because with 2 officers,
It's the same as now.
if they're trying to work shifts, somebody goes on vacation, you got to book a drunk driver to the jail and to the hospital for blood work and stuff. You have nobody on duty for 5 hours at a time.
We understand, and we have that exact problem right now. So
Right.
if Maurice, our current deputy, pulls over someone, he has to take him to jail. We have no one here, but the sheriff still covers us. So now response times increase because they're not here, but we're going to improve our patrol and our security of the town by 70% or more, just because of the way we're doing it.
Do we have the capacity in the budget in the next year or 2 if we need to bring in 2 or 3 more officers to find out we're short staffed?
There are multiple grants that we're applying for. Okay. So the grants are a big factor in this. Again, we got to get our certifications. These gentlemen here have been working on this along with our former city administrator. But for instance, there's a grant out there that will pay for 4 officers for 4 years.
Oh, good.
With vehicles for 4 years, 100%. as long as we agree to maintain those 4 officers for 2 more years after the grant runs out. Okay, so we're all up in these grants, and that's a big part of this.
Yeah,
But
I mean, it's a big undertaking.
Big on,
Starting a
and we
police
realize
department.
that. We realize that, and that's why we've been working on this for a year.
Mhm.
It'll be a year, maybe a little longer. And it's probably going to be another 3 or 4 months before we're, ready to go. But as far as being able to afford it, we have the paperwork to show that we can afford this for long-term, not short-term, long-term, with our revenue and the way we're budgeting and the revenue flow we have no retail, but we have no retail. So we have to rely on ad valorem tax, which is property tax. Well, and I've said this before, I'll say it again and again and again. The actions that a former past council took approving the Vickery project, which brought $600,000-$700,000 a year in future ad valorem tax to this town, is going to help support all of this. Now, and it's just the way it is. It's just so we're going to take advantage of it. This council didn't. It was not something we did, but I don't know that I would have not approved it. I would have probably been a opponent of it. But we're going to take advantage of the revenue. And one of the things is often, a town does 2 things. We build roads, we fix roads, and we offer services. We don't make things. We don't go in, we just offer services. Security is number 1. So if you want to go on vacation and you want to have someone watch your home, I sound like a broken record sometimes, you'll be able to call here and you'll get on the list and you can go on vacation and our officers will come by your home and do a security check on your property. We don't have those options.
I just want to make sure that if we're disengaging a little bit from the sheriff's department, that we have more than, because I know this is going to be a learning curve. And I just looking at the math on it, just from the standpoint of numbers of bodies, like compared to even Double Oak and Bartonville.
I started the police department. I was the mayor for Bartonville that started that police department. And we took that police department from a chief to 5 officers. And keep in mind, there's other options here, and that's reserve officers. We haven't even got into that yet. So there's another option to be able to cover time. And then another council came in and they tried to destroy the police department, Bartonville. Now the department has gone back to 7 officers and a chief, and they just got rid of their chief. But and now they're almost 24/7. Double Oak has been constant. I great friends with the former mayor over there. It's a constant department, and they can afford it because they have a tight budget, but they can afford it. And security is important over there. Well, security is important here too. So the Mayor Pro Tem has done a pro forma that shows that we actually how we can afford this over the next 10 years and where we'll be in 10 years based on current revenues and projected growth, if 5% or 7%. And we're going to see that for a while.
Do you envision this police department morphing into a little bit more from numbers of officers and stuff as those 2 sister cities of ours, or not?
Have more officers?
I mean, do you envision this growing into having more officers?
I don't know where I envision it to, because it's going to be based on the budget. And I would say a safe point right now would be a chief and 3 officers would be where I would see this in the next 4 or 5 years. That would be safe.
Okay.
So, yeah. And I don't see us being, going to $1 million, because we're not going to do that. We're smarter than that. So, and we pay the same tax as you do. And,
right.
So we're just the stewards of your money as we are our money.
All right.
So.
All right. Thank you for your time.
You bet. Any else would like to speak on the budget tonight on the public hearing? Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I will go to consent agenda. Any item on the consent agenda may be removed by any member of council for individual discussion or consideration. Council, there's several items on the consent agenda. Some of them are renewal of franchise agreements, approval of co-serve increase for natural gas for, which is really limited here, is mainly for Vickery. Approval of a new agreement for our on-site sewage facility representative. Approval of the financials, interlocal agreement with the sheriffs to get, they're renewing our contract for law enforcement with the sheriff's department until we're up and running. A few other things. Anything to be removed or discussed? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda as stated.
I have a motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second? I have a second by Councilmember Andrew. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous motion carries. Council, if I didn't leave someone for discussion to answer his questions, I'm welcome to do that. I apologize.
No, if I could, I just want to clarify one item that you made some excellent points, sir. I'm not sure where your question was going in terms of working with the county. And so I wasn't really clear on what you were asking.
Eventually, it's going to tail off. There's a relationship.
The sheriff's department has a duty to basically provide service to the entire county. That's never going to change. They will always be there as backup, as support for our officers when they're on duty. We have been working every week, sometimes several times a week, Troy, myself, Donna, with the sheriff's department. I talk to them all the time. They have been really outstanding in assisting us because, as you can imagine, this is a huge undertaking. And none of us here were actually law enforcement officers. So there's a lot that we didn't know when we started. And so we have leaned on the sheriff's department, and they have been, eventually we'll brief everybody on how helpful they have been, either in providing equipment, offering to lend us equipment, just providing us with a tremendous amount of support, and kudos to them for doing that. The bottom line is this: the sheriff's department where it is today cannot support providing the law enforcement that we need. That's the bottom line. That's what led us to go down this long road. But they've been instrumental in assisting us, and they will continue to do so. Pardon?
It'll be contracted out. We'll have CID. Yeah. We're not going to try to hire a CID officer or anything like that. We have got arrangements to be made on all of that.
That's part of the budget,
That's part of the budget.
contracting for investigations.
It's a whole different world. Yeah, we know we don't have that, and we're not looking for that, and we might get lucky and find that guy, but we have contract basis for that. So, all right, I'll move on to the next. So I got a motion to approve. We approved that. Next item is action items. Council discussion consideration of taking action on regarding ordinance 23-06, amending the code of ordinances by amending chapter 1 and the general provision of the board and commissions. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Council, this is a scenario that came up when I asked Mark Pate to serve on the ESD board with his amazing credentials and resume that we all know, but also the being planning and zoning commissioner and chairman, according to an ordinance we passed in 2 years ago or a year or two ago, would not allow him to serve on two boards that affected the towns in certain ways at the same time. However, I feel that Mark is the man for this job. And I'm bringing this ordinance forward to you to ask for you to approve a waiver to allow Mark to serve on serve on an additional board, which would be the ESD board, and also serve as our continue to serve as planning and zoning commissioner chairman, because I would hate to lose him on that board to have him do the other. One person to speak in regards to this is Ted Stranzik.
Ted Stranzik, 1020 North Berry Trail Court. I know Mark. I've worked with him for several years, and he is an exceptional individual. But the way this thing came about, if we need more people, we should broadcast that we need more people. And how do we know there's nobody else out there? You don't. And the fact that we have an ordinance that says you don't do this, period. And it's straight from the Type A General Law City Regulation that says we can only do what the state allows us to do. And if we want to change it, well, obviously we can. But in this case, we changed it. And now you want to change it again. Are we going to do the same thing with B of A? This is getting a little jumbled. And I think it could have been handled a little bit more above board than it has been. I spoke to that police operation over there, and I don't think any of you did, but I put my 2 cents in, and the bottom line is where they're going is really in a good direction. There's no two ways about it. But I'm concerned that we're doing things, again, not quite as open as it should be. And there should be in this particular write-up a specific clause that says there is no conflict of interest. Doesn't say that in here, but it should. That's all. Thank you.
Council, to remind the council, this will require a 4/5 vote of council. It cannot be a simple majority. It must be a super majority for this to be approved. Any comments, council, concerns?
Mr. Mayor, the beauty of the law and ordinances, we learn. And if we start at point A and we find out that that doesn't quite work from a practical and legal standpoint, we have the ability as a council to do that sort of amendment. And to Ted's point, I looked at this in terms of a conflict. There's no conflict here. And, one of the things that we as a town are challenged on a regular basis is getting citizens involved. And I would say the emergency district is one we need to have somebody who is well equipped to deal with that situation. I think they're moving in the right direction, but we need to have confidence that this town is properly informed and represented. So I think this is a case. I think it's appropriate to amend that ordinance. And, this isn't something we do lightly, take lightly, but I think it's appropriate in this case.
I would agree, Larry. And one thing I have with what people really don't understand here, there was another candidate or 2 other candidates that's going to be trying to be stuffed down our throat by the county commissioner's office. And I fought back on that and told them that we wanted to make our choice who served us. We didn't want the county commissioner making a choice for who served us. And that's why I asked Mark to do this, because I felt when you read his resume, whether he's the man for this job. So any other comments, questions? If not, I entertain a motion.
The only the comment that I would make is that the reason why we are here to support the decisions on who to assign to these things is because we want to check on things like conflicts and any other incentives that we might find malaligned with the decisions that we're going to make. So at the end of the day, given the lack of population and the lack of stamina of a lot of the people who serve the town, I think that makes a lot of sense to have this language open so that we can make a very open and transparent decision about who we put on what council. and what committee assignments. There's nothing opaque about that. So I support changing this to allow us to use discretion.
Entertain a motion, council, for other comments. Again, it takes the floor. Please, you may, absolutely, sir.
I've pondered this over, and I know why we changed it, as Ted said. And I know now why we need to kind of back up and get another gear, so to speak. This is not just somebody we just picked out of the air. This person has been very thorough and very even-handed through all the things that I've seen him involved with. And I know one side of me says, well, we've already passed it, we'll just leave it. Well, I know in my own personal life, sometimes I want to go down to this store, but I wound up going to a different store. Well, the reason why is things changed a little bit. And Steve really hit on kind of a nerve there, because as I sat here the last couple of years, I look out here and basically I see the same people all the time. I don't see a lot of interest. I saw somebody walking today as I was coming home, and back during the elections, they're very vocal, but yet they never come. They're never here. And so we're trying to say, or at least I'm trying to say, I won't say we, that I think Mark is the man for the job, and he can certainly serve on both boards without any partiality either way, because he's going to do the job. And so I too would like to say I support him verbally, openly, and I am for what Ted, I agree with you, but at certain times we have to take a different approach to things. Sometimes we have to back up and say, hey, wait, let's go this way. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other council? Okay.
I'll make a motion then.
Is there a motion to approve? I'll take. We have a motion by Councilmember Andrews to approve.
Second.
I have a second by Councilmember Johnson. All in favor to
Aye.
approve?
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous motion carries. Next item is discussion and consideration taking action on approval of an ordinance 23-007 adopting the town's budget for 2023-2024, including fiscal year operation and maintenance budget, capital improvement budget, and crime prevention budget. Council, to kind of add to comments earlier, we do have there's money in crime prevention budget that gets moved. It's a 1/4 cent sales tax. It generates about $100,000 a year that goes to this crime prevention goes to PD, that will go to PD. So that's also there. And another factor that's not ever factored in, because you're really not allowed to, is citations. And so you have a large citation, and it's not like we did a survey here several years ago or a couple of years ago. 95 or 97% of the citations issued in Copper Canyon was by non-Copper Canyon residents that were
Cited.
Yeah, that were so it's not like we're doing a speed trap for our citizens here. And those are also revenues that get added into this that we don't really get to factor in. So I have one person would like to speak on ordinance -23-007 is Ted Stranzik.
I think I've introduced myself. I'll leave it at that. When I look at a budget, and I run a public company for 10 years, I know what it is to look at a budget and analyze it. And what I'd like to do is ask some specific questions about some of the line items that are in here and look at it from that standpoint. If you look at line item under, there's about page 2, it says here 100-10- I think it's 110-4X, Town Hall improvements. The number is $250,000, but it says it's for a parking lot repair and additional parking lot.
Correct.
I thought we were going to have a PD building. Where's that?
That's under, there's other funds there you will find. It's $308,000 of funds and in the, what is that, the police budget, isn't it in there? Yeah, same section. That's COVID funds.
I realize the money is there, but I don't see where it says PD building. We're looking at
So we listed as
23, right?
right, listed as public safety. So being the COVID fund, we can use it for more than just the building. We could use it for a variety of different things as it's related to public safety. So we didn't call out the building specifically, but that's what it's intended for.
That's one of the things, just an observation. We'll leave it at that. On the next page, on 130-5201, law enforcement, this is the Denton County Sheriff's budget. And as I see it here, we know we're going to be paying about $10,000 a month. And for one officer. But you've got one officer for 2 months, and that's all. And that's October, November. Now, I'm sure that you guys are going to not be ready December 1st, okay? But it's not in the budget. I'm a stickler about that. It should be, if you're going to forecast another officer or an officer for a more extended period of time, that shouldn't be 20, it should be more than 20.
So Ted, just looking at, we're going through the interview process and I'll give you an update on that when it comes time to the agenda. But we just forecasted that amount because we knew it would be about 10,000 with the new contract that they are adopting tonight on their consent agenda. So there's just one officer as current status we have today. And so that was the starting point. What we'll do as we progress through this process, because we may hire somebody right away, it may take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, we don't know. So if you look under the next line item where it talks about public safety officers, that's the full salary starting October 1st. So what we'll need to do is amend the budget because obviously we're not hiring somebody
Okay,
October
okay.
1st. We'll adjust that because what we didn't want to do is change the overall total of the budget when we knew some of that money was going to fluctuate from line item to line item.
Okay. The last item has to do with all of these wonderful items that Councilman Castillo has spent a lot of time on and seeking a lot of hopefully very accurate financials, because that in turn is going to flow into your pro forma. So Castillo, my apologies. How about Rudy? Leave it at that.
Works too.
Two things. Number one, there's going to be a pro forma. And I'm assuming that the numbers in that pro forma are going to be the numbers that are in this budget. Number one. Number two, I brought up at the last meeting, I looked through all of this. There's no line provision here for guns and ammunition. And everybody said, oh, it's in the budget. Where? So all I ask is, where is it? Because obviously we need it. Obviously we should identify it, but it's not in here. Or is it hidden some other way? I don't know. I asked the question.
And so Ted, I don't think it's hidden. I think if you look under, because we don't know what we don't know, until we get that chief in place, there could be 100 more line items that maybe we haven't thought through, but I don't think that's the case. And so if you look everything from miscellaneous funds, what our intent is under the crime control and prevention fund, that carryover will offset any cost of items that we didn't think through, because as Rudy had mentioned, none of us are in law enforcement. And so there may be, if we had to list every boot string and handcuff and camera and all those things, this budget would be very long. And so we've anticipated, some of those costs of some of those unknown costs. we looked at software today. We got the word from the county today that they're going to let us utilize some software for no cost. 2 months ago, we thought that was going to cost $30,000 a year to do that. And so this is just a very fluid process as we go through it.
But you're going to approve this budget as it's now submitted, right?
Yes, we are on a basis that we'll be able to amend it as needed based on this. Because it is our duties as council, if we need to do a budget amendment, whether it's mid-year in April or in December or January, we cannot legally spend any of the money that's not budgeted for without doing a budget amendment, which you will be notified of, all of council meetings.
All I'm trying to do is point out the issues.
Mr. Strandlick, since you brought up my name and the diligent work that I did, the first thing that I need to clear up is none of these numbers that you're talking about right here about belts and things like that came from me. I worked on large items, radios, vehicles, other things. There are a lot of people involved with this, not just myself. So just to be clear and on the record, these particular numbers did not come from me. I think that you are demanding to the penny accounting ahead of time in an incredibly complex project, which takes a tremendous amount of time, a tremendous amount of energy from a lot of people. And, we have a lot of large, important things to worry about in terms of getting certified. We're trying to approximate certain small issues. Besides, we're expecting a Barney Fife operation, 1 round per officer. That's all they're going to get. Not a lot in the budget on ammo. So the bottom line is that I think that asking for a to the penny accounting ahead of time on such a big operation is just ridiculous, frankly. We're working, first of all, on trying to get the department going, trying to understand what it is that we're undertaking, and then move forward. The budget has to be somewhat flexible. And I have worked with Steve quite a bit on the long-term pro forma, and $500 items, $10 items. We're worried on the big picture. How are we going to end up every year from here on out in 10 years? So.
I don't want to seem snippered,
Yeah, he's not.
but I ran a $40 million budget. This is not that complicated at all.
This is
Okay?
not a 40 million.
I run a $30 million budget. Good for you. Bottom line, we've done our due diligence here and we're going to continue to.
Well, you forgot the biggest 2 items. Guns and ammo.
No, we haven't forgotten.
I mean,
We don't, Ted.
but look, I'm not against this department, but what I am against is the fact that everybody's making input here, but when you look at it in black and white, it's still not right. Let's
Ted,
make
may I
it
say something,
right.
please, sir? The word fluid has been used quite a bit. I have seen what these gentlemen do, and I've also heard people speak on belt buckles and badges and shirts and all this. So cut us a little slack up here. We're not 10 years old. We're all grown men. I'm older than you are. Yeah, it's funny, but it's laughable. You say $40 million, that don't mean squat to me. You know what? Wait, no, my turn. Ted.
I'm going to get control.
Okay, my turn, please. Look, we're up here. We're not paid a nickel. We're working out for the people who want us to be here. We're trying to do the right thing with every item that comes before us, not just pick and choose. Oh, you left this off. Didn't this man here say that it would fluctuate? We don't have all the answers just yet, but we can amend the things. We can amend it. That's within our jurisdiction. Is that not? If you were sitting here and I was out there, would you not be the same way? Yes, you would. So cut us just a little slack. Again, I say we're not 10 years old. We're not going to spend the money unwisely, and we're not going to do something foolish.
Thank you. All right. Well,
I beat this.
I'm sure your 3 minutes has come and gone, Ted. Next person to speak is Jeff Dahl.
Jeff Dahl, 1595 Abbott's. This is going to be really quick. So I've run 4 different companies, all in excess of $500 million across dozens of foreign currencies. With the exception of Steve, I don't think there's anybody in this room that's built and managed and run as many P&Ls as I have. I think you guys are doing a great job, right? Every budget I've ever built has had a big bucket of discretionary funds because you can't figure all this stuff out and stuff changes during the year, right? It is insulting that we're wasting time up here talking about shoelaces and bullets. And some of the garbage I've heard over the last 2 sessions is really irritating because the word is trust, right? You have discretionary funds. You trust your counsel that they are going to do the right thing. So I can't imagine in any perfect world where you'd have all this stuff figured out, particularly for something we haven't done before. So I just wanted to just say publicly, I think you guys are doing a great job, and I apologize for some of the crap you're having to put up with.
Thank you. Next person to speak, Robin Douglas Davis.
Hi, I'm Robin Douglas Davis, 581 Jernigan. I just have a simple question.
Yes, ma'am.
Are we doing any annual road maintenance projects? Because there's nothing on there and I didn't know what our status was.
We just, in fact, I think we renewed the contract or getting ready to do the contract for annual it's not a whole lot, it's like 50,000. It wasn't. It's pretty minimal. I mean, we've done all the overlays last year. We did all the crack sealing. We did Jernigan. We've done all of those roads. If you remember, you were on city council when we brought all those things forward. So we really don't have a big asphalt maintenance.
So we don't have a lot of stuff that we need to get done this year.
No.
Okay. And then as far as I know that we have some bonds outstanding, what's the outstanding balance on those just in
I
general?
think on the 7-year bond, we have less than it's not much. We can pay them off. Right. So those are the 2027 would have been the Jernigan. 2024 would have been the first one we did, which you were on council at the time. That was the one where we did the 750,000 to bring everything forward. That ends next year.
And we have very low rates.
We have 1.78% interest rates.
We're making money.
Plus, I'd like to remind you that we refinanced 2010 debt that was at 5+% down to 2%, right at 2%. We refinanced 2 years ago. Okay. Anyone else? Council, any more comments on item number 2? If not, entertain a motion to approve, and this will be a roll call vote.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance 23-007, adopting the town budget for 2023 to 2024, including the fiscal year operation and maintenance budget, the capital improvement budget, and the crime prevention budget.
I have a motion by the mayor pro tem.
I'll second.
I have a second by Councilmember Liebert. Do I have it? This will be a roll call vote. Councilmember Liebert, how do you vote?
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Castillo.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Unanimous, the motion carries. Next item is discussion, consideration, taking action, approval of ordinance 23-008, adopting the tax year 2023-2024 ad valorem operation and maintenance property tax rate of 0.0247987 and the tax 2023-2024 ad valorem tax rate of 0.0029518, which adds up to 0.27 something.
Mayor,
Yeah.
And we have full copy back there.
Yeah, they were a double-sided, didn't copy. Okay,
so I'll be happy to make a motion, Mayor, but just
please.
a couple super quick comments to everybody to just lay it out in a very, very simple terms. We are up here very careful to try to manage to give you all the fiscal responsibility that you ask for and that you would insist that we have. And I think at the end of the day, we've been very successful. We've had great town administration. We've had great past councils and council members that have helped us to do that. We don't want a whole bunch of excess cash. That's not the intention of government. The intention of government is to be as small as possible, but as large as necessary. And there's a lot of things that we have to start to maintain in terms of roads in future years. Concrete's more expensive to repair than asphalt. So we're going to have some budget and some capital improvement access to meet those needs. What I will say is in this year, we're working on a much more robust view of that maintenance plan. Every foot of road in this town is going to be reviewed, engineered, and we're going to put that into the pro forma so that we can have a more intelligent engineering-based, fact-based assessment on what those capital requirements will be in future years. And we will also be much further down the road with the PD and have those costs a little bit more under control. And I think all of these small ups and down ticks, because there are both. We just learned today we don't have to spend $30,000 a year on software that we thought we did prior. So we're going to have puts and takes, but when we have that budget a little bit more refined, which I think we're 95% there, that will also factor into the pro forma, as well as good scenarios for, hey, you know what? This area is changing the next half of a decade. We need more police coverage. So we're going to account for that. And I will assure you that we'll always give you the only tax rate that we need, not the tax rate that you might think people will want for too much safety. We try to manage this in a margin that gives us a little bit of stress and gray hair. I color my grays, but believe me, I've got plenty of them. So with that, let me make a motion to approve ordinance number 23-008, which adopts property tax rate that will result in an increase in tax revenues due to ad valorem and increased properties based on a tax rate of 0.277505, which is the same as last year, which effectively is a 17.76% increase in tax revenues for the ensuing tax year, again, due to ad valorem increases and additional households in the town.
I have a motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by the Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. Again, this is a roll call vote. Councilmember Liebert.
Aye.
Councilmember Johnson.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
Aye.
Councilmember Andrews.
Aye.
Aye is unanimous. Motion carries. Police report, Copper Canyon report.
Yes,
Joy?
Mayor, I'll take that. We have started receiving applications for the chief position. As of today, we received 11 applications. As many of you have heard in previous meetings, we have formed a committee of 6 individuals that include council members, community members, and law enforcement as well. And we'll meet in October, about mid-October, to review all the applicants. And then after that, we'll narrow those applicants down to about 4 to 5 based on the quality that we get. And then we'll go through first rounds of in-person interviews following that. And then there'll be a second round as well with the mayor and some additional council members. And then once we select that final one, they'll go through a pretty extensive background check, which would include everything from health, physical, psychological, all those things that your police chief would have to go through in any other agency here. So that's generally the process. Our estimated time is hopefully we'll have that chief in place mid to late January if all the interviews and everything go well, but that's what we're targeting. That is our goal. As far as the building and extension of town hall, we're looking at having some drawings completed, and that would be the MEP drawings, the whole package to go out to bid by late October. What you're going to see over the next 2 weeks is you're going to see survey crews here surveying the property for not only the extension of the building, but as well as for the additional parking lot to go along with that. That we're going to be doing some soil testing to make sure we put in the right foundation, the right base for the parking lot as well. So you're going to see a little drilling rig here, probably within the next 2 weeks, kind of punching some holes in the ground. and getting those results back to the architect to have their engineer crews make sure they design the right foundation and parking lot. But Mayor, that's the general update on the PD as far as where we're at today.
Thank you, Troy. Appreciate it. Anything else, council? Hearing none, time being 7:50, I entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion by the Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous motion carries.